Welcome to the Butter Knife. This week's video is in memorial of Charles Bryant, who passed away earlier this week.
We gathered some students and faculty who had memories to honor him.
And I started working at Woodward in 1996. Mr. Bryant started working at Woodward in 1998. We became very fast friends because we shared an office together and our classrooms were next door to each other, and we actually coached 8th grade football together. So Charles and I spent a lot of time together, and through all of those years, what I remember most about Charles was that he always made everyone laugh.
Mr. Bryant, the first thing anyone will think about when you say his name is his sense of humor. He's probably the funniest teacher in the school. His wit, his humor.
He is the most genuine, passionate, and honest person I've ever met.
But the other thing that I really remember about Mr. Bryant is how much he meant to his students, how much he made his students think. And even though his students oftentimes would come out of his class scratching their heads, frustrated because their arguments had been totally discounted by Mr. Bryant, they loved him for it because they knew at the end of the day they had to think, they had to formulate their own opinion, and the most important thing was that they had to defend that opinion.
I learned so many things from him, and even if I disagreed with him sometimes, he pushed you to disagree with him, and he pushed you to challenge what everyone else thought, and something I really admired about him.
I think he really challenged us to kind of think critically and really think about the other side on a lot of different issues. So I think that's something that I'm really going to take away from his class and having him as a teacher, is being able to see different sides in a lot of different ways. So I'm really thankful that I got to know him while I could.
It's hard to know where to even start. The things I would really like to say about him, he made people think for themselves. I think I wasn't in his class, but I could tell by the way students came in my classroom after his classroom, talking. You could tell that he got them to teach themselves a lot. He asked provocative questions. They'd come in and wonder if Mr. Bryant really thinks such and such, and ask me if he really did.
Always go on these kind of rants about his opinions on certain things, like Michael Vick and environmentalists, and just kind of foreign language. And I disagree, but it was funny to hear his opinion. And the last memory I have of him was him pulling me aside after class and saying, "Thank you for being such a good sport." And I was confused at first because I didn't really know what he meant, but it turns out he meant that thank you for being such a good sport when I pick on you.
He wouldn't talk about himself much. He would make the conversation about whatever was at hand or about you. It was kind of amazing, actually. And after senior philosophy seminar meetings, sometimes we'd spend 15 minutes or so continuing the conversation, even at 8:30 at night when everybody else was going home.
His class was like stories almost, and he made it not about a textbook and more about how it's applicable to life, and I think that's a good skill that he had. Very nice guy.
Coach Bryant was my teacher for econ, and he was also my coach for 2 years for cross country. So in econ class, I have in 4th period, and we were talking about utility, which means happiness, and it's what everyone strives for in life. And he was telling us how he was the richest man in the world because his quality of life and happiness translated to wealth. And so therefore that he had the happiest life he could and that caused him to be the richest man in the world.
I was struggling to figure out what I could say about Mr. Bryant when I got this email yesterday that sort of summed it up. It said, "It's such incredibly sad news. The man was larger than life in the light of so many kids' days during our time here. No one could teach you a life lesson and have you crying with laughter and rolling on the floor at the same time. We are so lucky to have had him as a teacher, coach, mentor, and friend while we did. His knowledge, wit, and humor and life with us while we were here, it truly made us better and smarter people."
He was just a really remarkable guy, and he's going to be missed terribly.
I miss him terribly. He was very much like a big brother to me, and I just know that our community is going to remember him for a really long time.
There's a few things I wanted to say. One, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that Charles Bryant was best of the best teachers any student could ever have, and he was the best colleague that any other teacher could have. Even though he has passed on to a better life, the legacy that he has left behind will inspire others for generations to come. Thank you.
Thanks for watching.
Coach Bryant, you will be missed.